Cartier-Bresson was one of the most influential and well-known photographers of the 20th century. He was a master of candid photography, taking pictures in the street when people really weren't aware of what he was doing, but trying to capture the life that he was looking at. He really pioneered and invented the genre of street photography using his small 35mm film camera, which was unobtrusive, it didn't get in the way, unlike the plate cameras on big wooden tripods of the other masters of photography that preceded him. He tried to capture that particular moment in his photography, and he used the term decisive moment, the moment when all the elements of the image are in the right place. In 1953, Cartier-Bresson produced a book of his street photography. It was called The Decisive Moment, though the French edition was called On the Run. Though some people have commented on Bresson as not being entirely on-the-hoof, immediate photographer, Cartier-Bresson would always emphasise the importance of composition, and he chose, because of his artistic training I think, fixed geometric patterns. But the idea he lay in wait for someone to walk into a pre-composed frame may explain his extraordinary high hit rate, which runs contrary to the French title of his book, Images on the Run, which suggests the opposite. Nevertheless, I really like this image. The location is carefully chosen and uncluttered. The spiralling steps lead the viewer's eye downwards to the fast-moving cyclist. The silhouette of the cyclist is framed by the curbstones and railings against the pale road surface and has space to move into. Why does this composition work? Our eye is attracted and led by a geometric pattern, which is seen naturally in Nautilus shells and elsewhere. It was discovered by Leonardo Fibonacci, who was an Italian mathematician in the Middle Ages. Fibonacci linked mathematical sequences and geometry to make the Fibonacci spiral, and many artists from the Renaissance to the present day use the spiral and the golden ratio, the divine number, to influence their compositions and design. I have applied the spiral to Cartier-Bresson's photograph. It fits very well. Whether he did this deliberately or subconsciously, we don't know. But I think with many art forms, you learn skills, you learn patterns, you learn techniques, and when you're familiar with them, you apply them unconsciously. I've chosen one of my photographs which I really like. I like this photograph of mine because it tells a story. I was involved in a documentary photography project in Salford in the late 70s, walking around the Ortsel area near the Manchester docks. I photographed and looked at and talked to people about the changing urban landscape during redevelopment. I found this occupied house along a street of empty bricked up buildings. I started to take a photograph of the house from the outside, and the owner of the house came to the door. I told him what I was doing, and he allowed me to take his photograph in the doorway with "This house is occupied" handwritten notice in the window. He was concerned about his personal safety, but also about having to move away from his home after many decades of living in this neighbourhood. I think this photograph works because compositionally the man is looking down the street and not straight at the camera. He stands out against the dark doorway into the hall. The sign in the window and the bricked up adjacent door add contextual information to the image. He is on the right hand side of the picture and classically on the third.